So far, our website consists of some pretty typical types of content, like drawings, bitmaps, or text. But if we really want to take advantage of what Flash has to offer, we'll want to include some other fun media types as well, like video or sound files. So in this chapter, we're going to take a look at how to bring sound and video into your Flash movie, and then we'll look at how to control it in the timeline.
If you're using the file that you created in the last chapter, you're all set. Just make sure you're using the ActionScript 3 version and not the 2 version that we saved. If you're starting fresh like me, you'll want to go to your project folder on your desktop, find Chapter 8, and open up Flash Site 8 Start. And the first thing I'm going to do, since file placement in this chapter is going to be important, is make sure that I save this into our website folder. So I'm going to go up to File and Save As. I'll go out of the Chapter 8 folder, and let me just go to the desktop here. I'll navigate into our project files. We'll go into the Flash website folder, and I'm just going to write over or save it as Flash Site FLA. Click Replace if you need to, and we're ready to get going. Now the first thing we're going to need to do is bring some sounds in that we can work with, and I've got a couple sitting out in the Chapter 8 folder. So let's go up to our File menu. We'll choose Import to Library, and you can navigate over to your Chapter 8 folder. Inside your project files on your desktop, you should see Button Ding Wave and Flash Groove MP3. Now, if I just pull down the menu for formats, we can see what kind of formats we have available to us for sound. Most of them are down here close to the bottom. Wave Sound, QuickTime Movies, Sun AU file, a Sound Designer, or even an Adobe Sound document. You can also bring in MP3s, like we have one, and AIF sounds. So we've got a lot of formats to choose from. Now I'm just going to pick both of these files at once. So I'm going to click on the first one and shift-click on the second one. We'll choose Import, and let's go off to our library and see what we've got. I can see the little sound icons there together, and we can click each one, and we get a little preview also of the waveform itself. You can even hear the sound right here if you click on the play button and preview it. So there we've got a nice quick sound, and our other sound is some music that's going to go on for a little while. I'll just click Stop so we can see we've got some nice guitar music to work with. Now let me click away from the library, and let's take a look at where we're going to actually apply these sounds. It ends up being pretty easy because there's only one place in the timeline where you can put a sound, and that is on a keyframe. Now, you can use any keyframe you want. If I just click on any one of these over here in frame 1, you can see that along with the other frame properties that we've seen before, we also have sound properties. Now, just to keep things organized, I like to give my sounds their own layer and their own keyframes, so we don't have to get them mixed up with some other content. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a layer for my sound. I'll do that right up at the top, but just underneath the AS one. That's just where I usually put them. I'll click on our Contact Content layer, go to our New Layer button, we get a new layer. We'll just double click on the layer name, and we'll rename that Background Music. And let me just pull out my layers here just a little bit so I can see all those names. Now to add our sound, all we need to do is select that first keyframe that we've got in our background music layer. You can see that we get our sound properties, and if we pull down on the name panel, we'll see every single sound that's available in our library. There's the two that we just imported. So all we have to do is pick one. We'll pick out Flash Groove here, and we've got a sound attached to the keyframe. You can even see the waveform in here. Now that's a fairly long sound. It goes on for quite a bit. Wherever that keyframe sits is where the sound's going to start. Now let's try a quick test just to make sure that the sound's working. I'll use Test Movie, and of course that's Command Return or Control Enter on the PC. There's our sound. I'll just close that test window, and you can see that the sound started up immediately because we had it right in frame 1. We can control when the sound starts to play by where we place that keyframe. Now, we already know how to move a keyframe. If I just have it selected, like right now, I can go back and click on it and just drag it down the timeline. Make sure I keep it in the same layer. Now, if I scroll down just a little bit, we can see that our camera icon finishes coming in at this point, And if I go a little bit more, my home page photo montage comes in. Now let me just set this up so I can see a few more of these layers here. What I'd like to do is time it so that the music starts right when my photo comes in. So I'm just going to drag this keyframe right on up, and I'm even going to put it right here on the stop frame right before the home label. Now let's see what our movie tests out like. I'll just test it again. That's Command Return or Control Enter. You can see my icons coming up. And let me close that. We could definitely hear the music come in right when the photo is there. So as you'll see, we have complete control of when our sound's going to start. Now on the other end of the sound, when it ends, you'll notice if I scroll down here, my sound is actually longer than my movie is. But that really doesn't matter, because the sound is just going to keep playing till it's finished. And that's pretty good. Now, we don't have too much to set up on a sound once we've picked a keyframe and attached it to it. But you'll notice we do have some panels down here, some additional controls labeled Effect, and then some repeat controls and some sync controls. Probably the most important one is going to be Effect, because what that is really is volume. I mean, if we pull this down, I can set our song to fade out at the end. But I can also just go right down to Custom, or you can choose the pencil icon right over here next to it in order to edit the volume. If we double click in here, we get a close-up view of both the left and the right sound channels. And if I scroll down a little bit, or better yet, I'll use the zoom out icon a couple times, I can see the full length of the sound, and I can see that it's set to fade out at a certain point. Now, we can actually completely control the volume here. So really, this is an envelope panel, and if I pull down on either one of these handles, you'll see I'm just reducing the volume. Now, I kind of like to keep my music nice and subtle and in the background, so I'm going to drop down the sound volume of the music down to about 1/3 of what it started out. I'll do that on both the left and the right channels. Now, you can click and drag any additional handles you want to here to control the sound. I'll just pull that one off the graph so it'll remove it, because what I want is a nice soft guitar music that fades down. I can even shorten the sound. It's about 16 seconds right now, but I'd say I only need about 10. So let's clean this up a little bit. I'll zoom out so I can see the entire sound from beginning to end. There we go. And I'll just grab the handle that we're using to signal the fade. I'll pull it up here quite a bit, and then I'll use the other handle that's signaling the 0 point or volume in the sound and set that at about 10 seconds. So now our sound is going to softly play, and somewhere around 7 or 8 seconds in, it's going to start to fade down to nothing, and it'll end up only being a 10-second sound. So you can make whatever kinds of modifications you want to in this panel. The custom settings will be saved with your sound when you click OK. Now I want to test my movie again, and this time we'll let the whole sound play so we can hear that fade and hear when the sound finishes. I should also point out that we add our sound, and very soon after that, about at frame 85, we have a stop action. So even though our playhead is stopped and sitting waiting at that point, the sound is going to continue to play until it's finished. I'll just use Command Return or Control Enter on the PC, and let's see that music come on. And there's the fade. And let me go ahead and close this window. You'll notice that we were sitting right at the home page. The timeline was stopped, but the sound is just going to continue on until it's finished. And that makes it really easy to work with sounds inside the Flash interface.